All right. So welcome to the show. Today we are joined by Amber, Jami, and Sydney. Again, with my lovely co-host here, Dustin. Thank you all so much for being here today.
Hi. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So I would love for us to kind of start off, we're all kind of from different seasons. Some of you are from similar seasons. Would love for you all to just kind of intro yourselves with like what season people would recognize you from and what your family background is, and maybe just kind of talk a little bit about how you identify as a mixed race person. So whoever wants to go first.
I can go first. Okay. So my name is Amber. I was on Crystal's season, Ben Higgins' season, and Bachelor in Paradise. I don't know the second one that was ever on. So I don't know second. I come from a mixed background. My mom is my white half. She is partially Scottish and Italian and French and all mixture of white. And then my dad is, I'm not very close to my dad, so I don't really know all of his background, but obviously he's African-American side. And I guess I identify myself as, I don't want to say more white, but I grew up on my white side of my family. So I definitely have learned a lot in the last month than I probably have in my entire life. So this is kind of new for me, but I love it and I'm here for it.
Yeah. We're all
love it. Go Amber.
Yeah. We're all figuring it out. And that's part of the conversation with Mixed in America. Jasmine and Megan, they both just kind of shared about how we are all figuring it out. Like the mixed race story is, one that there's not a lot of research on, one that not a lot of people talk about, one that we don't really have a strong community in. So some of the things we talk about today might feel a little hard and might be a little uncomfortable, but that's totally okay. It's part of the process. And this is a safe space for us to try to figure these things out and process them together. So thank you for sharing, Amber.
It's complex. It's complex. So yeah. Thank you, Amber.
You're welcome, Dustin.
Love that. Where are we going next? We're going in the line. Jami, you want to go next?
I'll jump in. Hi, I'm Jami. I was on season 20, so Ben Higgins' season of The Bachelor. And then I did Bachelor in Paradise 3 after that. My dad is white. He's French Canadian. He has a little bit of Métis in him. So whenever people see my parents, they're like, no, they're both mixed because my dad can get pretty tanned. And I'm like, pretty sure I know what my parents are. But
thanks for telling me what I am.
Right. And then my mom's parents are from the Caribbean. They're from this small island called Montserrat. My mom is, I feel like now, even for her, these last couple months, she's learned a lot more about like her background and stuff. Cause she grew up in like the prairies in Canada. So in like Winnipeg, which is just like the center of Canada, there was like one other Black family where she's from. That's like all she really knew. I think she was called an Oreo the whole time she was like in high school. So she's like, now was like the opening for her to start talking about like race more, which I'm like so proud of her and so happy that we're having these conversations.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yay. I love that. Is it my turn?
Yeah, Sydney, go ahead. Have at it.
Okay, I think I did the line. So I'm Sydney. I am from Peter's season. My mother is just white, Southern, from Alabama, blonde hair, blue eyes, little bitty, so cute. And then my dad is African-American, and then his mother is Dominican. So I don't know. I guess I've never really had to like identify just because I've always just like, I've never really like understood what even that means. Like, do I identify like as white or black? I've never like understood what that really even meant. So I've always just like been myself. If I had to say like where I was most comfortable for myself, I always, for some reason, just caught myself. If there's in high school, for instance, if there's a group of African-Americans versus the groups of Caucasians or whatever, I would just naturally gravitate towards the African Americans. That's just where I felt most accepted and most where I could feel the way I wanted to feel and not judged as much. So I guess that's where I would feel like most comfortable, if that makes sense. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, I know just now for this intro, we kind of went in a line here down our video, but definitely, you know, feel free to all chat with each other and want this to be a pretty open discussion here. You know, I know given that we all have came from Bachelor, not to talk a ton about Bachelor itself, but just to kind of touch on our experiences briefly on there. From what I can remember, there's only been a select few amount of people who on the show have actually been able to talk about their experience being mixed race. You know, Sydney, you came to mind as someone, I think in my intro, they had me talk about it where I said, you know, I felt like I wasn't accepted by people who were Black and I wasn't accepted by people who were white. And I felt like I wasn't Black enough and then I wasn't white enough. And it was just felt kind of hard to fit in. And I know you did talk a little bit about it on your season. And I'm wondering if anyone else did too. And I just don't remember or might have missed it.
I think for Amber and I, the only time it was like aired, which it was aired in such an ugly way, was during Women Tell All with Jubilee, which was like so unfortunate because like we did another podcast where we really started dissecting what happened. And we were like, the setup was so awful. Like she was on stage, we were in like where everybody sits, and it felt like we were like yelling at her to get our point across. And it was just like such a hot mess. It like, to look back, I'm like, it was awful.
Yeah. And we were like saying how they kind of put us in that situation because right before we went on the show, they were like, so you guys are going to talk about this, right? And we're like, yeah, we can bring it up. But like instead of being together, we got separated. And right before the show too, Jubilee and I were all friends. Like we were texting each other. And then it's almost like they just completely separated all of us. So
to talk about like your experiences of being biracial and being Black.
Yeah. And some of the things that she had said throughout our season, she would say, I'm the only real Black girl here. And she's like, out of everyone, I could be the first Black bachelorette. And we were like, well, like we would as well. And she was like, no, but you're not really Black. And like, to me, the way I interpreted that was like, you're saying my mom's not my mom. And like all of my family, what they've been through, and that I'm not affected by that. And it was just like, it was really hurtful. And I feel like at that time, people weren't understanding where we were coming from. It came across as like the two light-skinned devils attacking this like beautiful Black woman, which was like not the case.
Right. That's exactly how we felt. Because even afterwards, I remember that girl that came up to us and she was like, thank you so much for like talking about this. Like I've had issues in the same situation, and she just like thanked us, but none of that obviously was aired. So we just got death threats on Instagram.
We got called racist on Instagram.
That's always a fun time.
All
right, it's time for a short break right here. I want to share one of my favorite sponsors of the podcast. Y'all already know that is BetterHelp. And this is not just like self-help, y'all. This is real, like legitimate therapy online from licensed professional counselors who honestly are available like within 24 hours. You'll get paired with someone. It's super, super easy to sign up. They offer financial assistance and they are available worldwide. So no matter where you are in the world, you can get matched with a therapist and start communicating with under 24 hours via phone, via text, chat, via video. And they've actually had so many people sign up and start using BetterHelp that they are actually recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. So, I mean, clearly, if you're a therapist, get on this platform. And if you are looking for help, I mean, I think the proof here is in the numbers. So I really want to help all of you lovely listeners start living a happier life today and get the support that you deserve and that you might be needing or that you just might want. So you will get 10% off your first month by visiting BetterHelp.com/talkaboutit. And that will give you, I mean, that's like 4 sessions you could fit into into a month for 10% off. And they also do offer financial assistance, so you can, make it even more affordable. So you can join over 1 million people today and start taking charge of your mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/talk about it. So I hope y'all take advantage of this, and we can get right back to the show. Sydney, I heard you kind of like agreeing with parts of that. And given that you shared, kind of growing up, you felt pretty accepted by like the Black community growing up. Is that something that you can relate to at all, of having kind of comments like made towards you like that? Or have you had a different experience?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Just growing up like in the deep South, I was born and raised in Alabama, and that my mom was a single mom. My dad never was really in my life ever. So, just going into that like very white picket fence, cookie cutter kind of community, and coming in as just like this mixed little girl with a mom that's struggling to keep her head above water. It was just like, it was a lot, going into high school and like learning who I was and trying to just, I just wanted to be accepted anywhere. So I was like, okay, well, I'll join the cheer team. And then I'll have girlfriends, but the cheer team was primarily like all white girls. So then I was like, well, I'll join the dance team, and I'll like those girls were all African American. So it was very hard for me to just understand like where I belonged. And like the girls would, it's awful names. Like I don't have to repeat them, but I'm sure we've all heard them, So it was just a lot of that. And it's very just political, I guess, in Alabama. And it's very, it's just very nasty here still, like always. And I don't, if that'll ever change, like God willing it will. But have I seen it change? No. Like it's, I would never raise my child in the community that I grew up in ever. So
that makes me so.
Where do you live now?
Sad. I'm in between Alabama and San Jose. So I'm here in San Jose now, but I'll go back to Bama to see my family and stuff still.
Yeah. And Amber, I know you grew up in Chicago, right? Near Chicago.
I grew up like an hour south of Chicago.
Similar to Dustin. and
well, no.
No, Dustin? I know you were like near Kentucky-ish.
Yeah, I'm way further south than Amber.
Okay.
She's like in a somewhat of a suburb area. Okay. Somewhat. I guess you would call that. I don't know.
And then Jami.
But it's outside Chicago.
And then Jami, you were around like Canada, around Vancouver growing up?
I actually grew up in Alberta. So it's like right above Montana.
Yeah.
It's definitely like, it's not like the South, but people say like it's more redneck than anywhere else in Canada.
Yeah. So. The one time I was in Alberta, it was called Texas Light. Like that it's like Canada's Texas. But I'm wondering just to talk about like location a bit. I did middle school in South Carolina, and that was where I experienced like the most racism and the most like confusion around what my race was. And I'm hearing from you, Sydney, that like part of your experience in the South, just in general, kind of made that a bit difficult.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine. When I was talking to Taylor earlier this week before all this, I had told her like when I grew up, I grew up on my mom's side. So my dad wasn't really around until the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And then coming from that, I went to a Catholic high school. So I was around only white people. And then high school, everyone went to the Catholic high school as well. Grade school and high school. And then when I went to high school, I was the only Black woman in my entire class.
That's crazy.
So I only had white friends. And then when my dad, my dad's side of the family, like I personally don't even know, people like used to joke around because my dad had a big family. He had one of 13.
Yeah.
So a lot of my friends were like, don't date any Black guys because they might be your cousins. Because I had so many cousins, so many. And I was like, I don't even know if he might be my cousin. Like, I don't know. But so I think I primarily always dated white guys, like growing up and everything. And that's just kind of like where that's how I grew up, honestly. My mom was never like, I don't want you to learn about this. But again, even in high school, grade school, we learned about Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks. That's it. That's probably all I learned.
Very minimal, for sure.
Right.
Same.
Yeah.
I learned the same. It's very minimal. They don't really get in depth because, I mean, they don't know either. They don't know. I don't want to say they don't want to know, but they just don't know. And I guess they don't have that curiosity to look into it with more depth or whatnot. But yeah, I feel you. Like, I grew up pretty much dating in my hometown, Southern Illinois, I pretty much started dating just white girls. And then I fell in love with this black girl. And I was like, she was my first girlfriend. We dated for like 5 years. And I was just head over heels. Head over heels. Love.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that didn't work out. But yeah, I've only dated a black girl, a mixed girl, and a Latina. Never really fully dated, like a serious relationship with a white girl, but growing up, it was just white girls that were around.
Well, before, in our intro with Dustin, you shared an experience of, being younger and having a crush on a girl, then her basically being like, well, I can't date you because you're black.
Yeah, my little heartbreak.
Yeah.
My first heartbreak.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, for the girls, if there has been any kind of experience like that around dating where you felt like, the person wasn't interested because you had blackness as a part of you.
Yeah, I definitely have. I remember in high school, there was, he was like the quarterback of the football team. Like, he was white and he was just, kind of just like that guy. And he always, like, I knew that he thought I was cute. I always knew it. But then he started to express that. And then, we grew like a liking to each other. And then I would go over to his family's house because we were still in high school. So, but his family was not having it. And they were just like, this is not right. Just because I think because of my mom, who she was, and she was single and we just weren't that, family. And then me being me, it was just like, it was basically because I was mixed. It was for sure because I was a mixed girl in school and that wasn't a good look. And it's so crazy to think about that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is that when you realized that race is an issue? Was that because that's when I realized that what race was? I don't think I really understood it until that point. Was that for you too, Sydney? That was in high school, so you were probably. I
had experienced really heavy in middle school. Honestly, I got it the heaviest, the worst in middle school, and then high school was when I was just like, okay, I hate all of you guys. Just leave me alone. I was kind of like a loner, and middle school was when I was really, really struggling with I just burned my hair so straight because I just hated it being curly, and I was just like, I hate this. They're like, right, and then I would want all of the Aeropostale and all of those clothes all the girls had. I would just engorge myself in that because that's what I thought I needed to do for these people to like me, And then once I got to high school, I was like, okay, I just like a lot of you guys, I just want to get out of here and get to college as soon as I can. So it was just miserable. So Dustin, to answer your question, I think it was more in middle school is when I struggled the most and when I figured out, okay, I'm different. I'm not the same as everybody. I'm different,
Yeah. Same.
So funny about the hair. I did the same thing. I remember coming downstairs with my mom and I'm like, Mom, I want Ashley Beauvais hair. And she's like, Ashley Beauvais is white, had this short little bob, blonde. I was like, I want to do this with my hair. Why can't she put her hands through her hair? And I made her cut my hair. It was the worst decision
all the
of my
girls
life.
in my high school had this little side bang, and because her hair was straight, so it swept really nice. But I wanted that so bad. I was Sydney. My mom was like, Sydney, you can't do that to your hair. I'm like,
can't
Mom,
do that.
I have to have it.
I had the same thing. I remember begging my mom. I was like, I can do bangs. Trust me.
Yeah.
And I was pretty young, I think, when I first chemically straightened my hair, and then it was it needed to be stick straight. Otherwise I would get so, and now looking back, I was it was definitely anxiety. I would feel uncomfortable if it wasn't and it was dead straight, no movement. It's making me cringe now. And I wish that I had shaved my head earlier and embraced my curls earlier, because the second I did that, I felt I just felt like me. The second and I was enough with all of this.
Yeah.
But I feel like listening to your guys' experiences, and how they say there's there's no racism in Canada, which there 100% is. It's just a lot. It's definitely, it's polite racism, I guess.
Yeah.
Which Canadians are. So it's listening to your what you've been through. I'm just so shocked. And I feel like I've gone through very like more smaller kind of scenarios of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Me too, honestly. I was lucky enough, like growing up, and all my friends, like they kind of accepted me when I came in. I moved from California to Illinois. So I like just jumped into the grade school, and everyone pretty much accepted me right away. And I mean, but like I named my dog Oreo because they called me Oreo. So it was like a polite racism. So, I mean, look at this little guy. He's on my mat. Okay. Anyway, that's my dog. But I mean, it's just like, polite racism.
Yeah.
But you don't really think about it.
Yeah, you don't think about it because it also kind of becomes your norm as you're growing up. That becomes like, oh, okay, I guess that is like how people talk to me. And I mean, I think, Jami, it's what you're saying, like in the South in America too, it's people are so much bolder with their racism. Yeah. I mean, literally in middle school being straight up told to go pick cotton, to go back to Africa, told I have slave feet, called a half nig. That was like my nickname, that I was a half nig. So it's I think certainly depending on where you are, like people are much bolder with it. But it is in Canada, certainly still present, just presents itself in different ways.
Yeah.
All right. I want to take a short break right here. I want to talk about hair for a second because we have a fun sponsor of the podcast, Function of Beauty. Now, I know y'all probably heard of them before, but you might not have. And I want to share my experience because I wasn't sure how this was going to go. You know, I'm always hesitant to try out like new things on my hair because, you know, you always see these commercials and women just letting down their soft, silky hair. But like, I usually don't have that response and I have particular hair. And Function of Beauty is hair care that is formulated specifically for you. So I was hesitant, but honestly, no matter what your hair type, they create shampoo, conditioner, and treatments to fit your unique needs. And you might be sitting over there being like, I'm real unique. They ain't gonna match me. Well, they literally have 54 trillion, y'all. Trillion possible ingredient combinations to make sure your formula is as unique as you, boo. And honestly, it's very, very simple. First, you take a quick but thorough quiz and tell them a little bit about your hair. And then the Function of Beauty team determines the right blend of ingredients. And then they bottle your custom formula to order. They deliver it in this personalized formula right to your door in a cute customized bottle with your favorite color and fragrance. And they put your name on it. I got my fragrance as lavender, so obviously it was purple. And I put on my shampoo bottle Curl Boss or Curl Queen. Curl Queen is what it said. I was owning my curls. But one of the things that I obviously very much value in this is the fact that their formulas are vegan and cruelty-free, that they don't ever use sulfates or parabens or any other harmful ingredients, because y'all know these ingredients are important. And especially with these curls, I gotta be treating them right. Parabens and sulfates do nothing but damage my curls. So honestly, what are you waiting for? I waited way too long, and I'm glad that I have them in my life now. So you can head over to functionofbeauty.com/let's talk to take your 4-part hair profile quiz, and you can save 20% off your first order. Go to functionofbeauty.com/let's talk for 20% off, and let them know, y'all, that you heard about it from this show. Be like, yep, I heard about this on Let's Talk About It with Taylor Nolan. Again, that's functionofbeauty.com/let's talk. Hope y'all check it out and enjoy it, because I'm definitely very happy I made this decision, and I'm very, very happy to have them as a sponsor of the podcast. So with all that said, we can now get right back to the show. Part of what I want to make sure we go into a bit, because I know not every group we're going to talk about similar topics here. And since this came up, and Jami, I know you've had like a very, I don't even know the word for it, but like you've really kind of dug into this like hair journey. And also, Justin, I feel like you might learn some things right now, because I don't know if it's different for guys or not, which is also why I'm glad you're here to see your perspective and, you know, whatever experience you've had with this. But for, you know, biracial girls, I feel like with our hair, it's such a signifier. Like I was continuously told that part of my Blackness was my curls, and that was unfortunately part of what made me ugly, and the part that I was made to feel very shameful for, hence the straightening all the time and needing to meet these standards of white beauty. And, you know, Jami, you like shaved your head and now you're really embracing your curls, and would love for you to share just a little bit about like what that journey was like for you. And then for Amber and Sydney, you know, what your journeys like with your hair and your racial identity has been like too.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's funny because especially now I can see like clearer. Whereas like when I had straight hair, it was like, oh, she's exotic.
Oh yeah.
And even for acting, I was going out for like a lot of Latina roles and like just all over the place and like ethnically ambiguous. Yeah. And now I strictly go out for Black female, which I'm like, that's very interesting. I think the war with my hair, I guess, tug of war, started when I was like young and I got made fun of like severely on the bus, like grade 6. They said I had like horse hair or like straw hair. And I was just like, and it sucks because as a kid, you're like, I don't know what I'm doing to make you this upset. Like I'm literally just being myself. And then obviously you go like, I had like, when I was really young, I had really beautiful like ringlet curls. And then as you age, obviously your hair changes. And I can't remember what grade I was in, but my uncle used to always take me out on like our like little dates. And I didn't know, like I was having issues with my hair. So I would just throw it in a ponytail. It wasn't the nicest. And he was like, you need to look presentable, which he was on my mom's side as well. So he's Black. But that's what he's been told. Yeah. So it stems back to there where it's like, we need to always look presentable and professional. So he took me to the hairdresser and I got my hair chemically relaxed. And I still remember because I watched that Chris Rock documentary and that feeling of I'm finally beautiful. And like the compliments I got from that, that's why I just started doing it for like, well, I think till I was like 25. That was when I finally was like, I am done with this. I started telling everyone that I was going to shave my head because I wanted to like have to do it. I didn't want to chicken out. I wanted to do it years before, but I just couldn't. And then the one good thing about like social media is seeing people going through the same journey as you. Yeah. And I saw so many influencers doing like that same thing. And I was like, I just got to do it. And when I sat in the chair and my girlfriend started cutting my hair, and she buzzes it off. And then I went to the washroom because it had taken a long time. I have an aggressive amount of hair. And she thought that I was like crying. Like she was so scared. And I came out and I had literally like the biggest smile on my face. And I still like that feeling was just like the best. And as it's growing out, I'm just like loving it. I kind of miss my afro a lot. Like it was so much fun. And now I look back on like photos of every stage of my hair and I'm like, oh, that was cute. That like I missed that. And now I'm just like excited for it to get long again.
I don't know what's right. You're like literally making me cry right now.
It's bad, man. Like I get like it's silly because you're like it's just hair, but it like makes you so. I watched a video on Instagram yesterday, and this girl was like, "Your hair is your crown. Like think about how many people curl their hair." And I'm like, yes. Like I can't wait to have like daughters and kind of like teach them that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now you're really making me cry talking about daughters.
And I was on set with these young girls, and there was 3 of them that all like really looked alike because they had to play one younger girl. They were like 4 or 5, and I was like the older version of them. So we all had these curls, and they were like, "Oh, mommy, she looks like me." And I almost started bawling, and I was like, "Cherish your curls. Like, don't change them. Work with them." And they were like, "Okay." And I was like, I hope that helps because I feel like when an older person that you think of as like cool is like keeping them, you're like, okay.
Cool and beautiful. Thank
you.
Yeah, they are beautiful.
I love that. Curls are beautiful. Great. That's so like disheartening that, you know, so many girls go through that at such a confusing age already, like going through like puberty and growing up and bullies and this and that, which that experience should be something a lot younger that, you know, Jami was having. It should be a more, you know, I don't know. It's just disheartening that so many girls go through that.
Yeah. When my hair was curly, I had to like run downstairs when we had our school pictures. I'm like, can I take my picture first before even like the kindergartens? Because my hair would just grow. So I'm like, please, can I do it? It's still wet. Yeah. Let me do it right now.
Yeah. The first like 30 minutes when it's wet is when it's the best.
I'm like, go. And then as soon as I got it done, I would put it up in a bun. Like every day it was in a bun. And then I chemically relaxed it as well. And then finally it grew out, and now it's just finally getting healthy, and I'm finally embracing the curls, but I know how to like do it better. You like, obviously my mom didn't know, she combed it. It would take hours for her to just brush my hair, and I would just cry. So I just automatically hated my hair as a child. And I never wanted to go swimming because it would get wet. And then I didn't want to brush my hair because I would just cry. I'd be like, Mom, these hurt. And she's like, we got to get the rats out. She like named them.
Oh my God. I remember, did you have to go swimming for school? And like my parents signed me out of that class. No. Oh my gosh. It was, I was like, that's my nightmare.
Oh my goodness.
Which I thought was weird because we had, like, I went to a Catholic school and we had separate, like gym classes for male and female. But for some reason, for like the swimming session, we all swam together, which I was like, your whole concept is very confusing, but hell no, I'm not going.
Yeah. I didn't have that.
That's odd.
Yeah. And Sydney, what about for you?
Yeah, I think it was similar to both of you guys. I had curly hair and I thought it was not cute. And my mom would put Just For Me relaxers on it, and it would, it's straightened out, but it's like almost like I regret those decisions because like now it's like your curl pattern. It's so weird now because I've been doing like I remember moments where my mom would literally like iron, like we didn't have straighteners yet. So like she would literally iron my hair out like on the bed. And like thinking about that now was like crazy, but like that's the lengths that I would go. It was crazy, right? Yeah. But that's the lengths that I would go to have straight hair. I was like even like a few years back, even I would think like if my hair was curly, I would just get out of the shower. It would be like 3 days where I wouldn't go anywhere because my hair would be curly. And like someone would be like, oh, let's go do something. I'm like, oh, I can't. My hair's curly. Like, what is this thinking? Like, it's crazy to, go have straight my hair. It's going to be like 3 hours, so I can't go, So that's like, I had to just work through that and understand, like, Sydney, you don't have to do that to feel your best, to feel put together and pretty. Like, it's like I had this like inkling in my mind that was like, if your hair is curly, like, you're not pretty. Like, you can't get ready. You can't go out anywhere. And it's like, I've had to work through that to like tell myself like that it's fine. And that it's like just these, I think it's just back from middle school, high school. It was just back from those years of me just like drilling that in my head and telling myself that that's who I had to be. So it's been like me trying to just retract from that like mindset that I've had for so long,
Yeah. It's so hard to get those like inner thoughts out of your head that like other people put there. And it makes me...
I still have them. I still have them every once in a while.
Right.
I mean, sometimes like I'm like, oh, my hair is not the best when it's curly, and I'm like, I'll just stay home tonight.
Right? It's a
also
process.
takes forever.
Yeah, it really does. It takes, I mean, when I would straighten my hair, it'd be literally like 2.5 hours. And it totally was this whole process of like trying to be quote unquote presentable and what society perceived as presentable and as beautiful. Like to go on a date or to go to an event or to go to a wedding with my hair curly was like, like I will be taking up too much space. Felt like I would be too big and taking up space, that I'd be making other people feel uncomfortable, which then in turn would make me feel uncomfortable, that the white people I was around would then be perceiving my blackness and experiencing my blackness that I didn't feel secure or comfortable in yet, and that I feared they would then judge and shame me and be racist against me towards. So it was like, how can I show up in the way that's going to make everyone else the most comfortable to where I can feel safe, that I'm not going to get attacked in any way. And something as trivial as you might think of hair actually is like a huge signifier to that. So like when women are like, even my mom would straight up say to me like, oh, I love when you straighten your hair. It looks so much better. Like it's so much prettier when it's straight. Like it's so cute, and like the curls, like you're trying them and they're cute too. But, I love when you have it straightened. And it's like, I don't think white people specifically understand the like emotional turmoil and journey that mixed race people go through, especially women, with their curls.
Yeah. I think my dad is like a G in that way because he weirdly had a fro and he is white. He has aggressively curly hair as well. So the day I straightened my hair, my dad like cried. That was the first time I saw him cry.
You're gonna make me cry again, Jami. God damn it.
And now with it growing out, he's like, when he first saw my buzz cut, he was like, oh, and then he was like, this is kind of cool. And then my brothers and I was like, now we look like triplets. And now with it growing out, like my dad's like, I'm so happy you embrace your curls. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like with this, like the BLM movement, like when I'm walking down the street, like so many people are like, yes, like good for you. And I yell at like girls with like natural hair and their braids and everything. And I'm just like, yes, because I didn't realize like my aunt, she is like a phenomenal braider. Like she's a magician. And she braided my hair once and she was like, are you sure you're able to wear this at work? And I remember being Sydney. Like,
no, you go ahead.
Why would that be an issue? And she said like at her own work, she's had issues. Yeah. And I'm like, are you kidding me? These girls are wearing messy buns. Their hair is greasy, like, and you can't wear braids? Like, are you kidding me?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I had a similar, go ahead, Dustin. Oh, okay. I remember, speaking of braids, I remember I was in like health class or something, and some of the girls like were doing like cornrows. So I got my hair like completely braided, and I thought I was just like the coolest, like cutest moment ever. So then the next bell rings and I go to class, and there were some of like the worst people that bullied me throughout high school. And I just remember walking in and everything like, oh, Sydney, like, oh, you finally look like where you belong. Like you finally look normal. Cause like my hair was braided, and I was like, you guys, I just remember like sitting there, like, you know, you're in their desk and like everyone, you know, you just feel so like, you know, they're talking about, you know, they're saying it. And it was just like, I remember that moment. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I've had so many of those, like, just like crazy things happen that you don't even, just wild.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking on braids, I actually we had, you know, Taylor, we had this conversation earlier, like how I got into sports. I was really athletic and I was really good. So my black side took me in, you know, because I was really good at sports. I remember getting braids in middle school. And I was like, yeah, I want to be like Allen Iverson and this and that. And I'm so... I don't know if I'm not going to curse. Never mind.
No, you can totally curse. You can totally curse.
I'm so tender-headed. I went through so much pain to just look cool and look black. And I love braids. I love them on people, but I myself will never have my hair braided again. But I wish I could show you these photos though, but I just sped up a time.
It's the right
Didn't
braider,
you have
though.
one?
My girlfriend in Van she is like the most amazing cornrow style, and she doesn't pull, but it stays so well. Like my hair was so short before and she braided it, and I was like, how am I not crying my eyes out right now? And it looks so clean.
See, I think
you got to come to Vancouver. I'll hook you up.
I'm done. I think my hair.
Dustin's been traumatized. Yeah. No, and I think too that like, I mean, maybe I can't remember because there's a lot of stories and everyone has different experience. But, you know, I remember Sydney saying that you grew up predominantly with your mom who's white. And for me, growing up predominantly with my mom who's white, that like I totally missed any of those opportunities to even immerse myself in my blackness or to have even tips right on like edges, which like I was always like, oh, they're my baby hairs and like they make me look like not cute and I need to like get rid of my baby hairs.
One time, I shaved mine one time.
The kitchen, is that what
terrible. They say? What is it?
The kitchen?
What is the kitchen?
You never heard that?
No.
You guys got to Google. So on my black side of my family and my cousins, they would always talk about, the girls would talk about their kitchen, and it's like at the bottom of your hair in this area,
in the back of your neck.
You guys never heard that before?
The
kitchen?
No.
That's some ghetto shit. It's like
okay,
so funny.
We learning today. But the baby hairs, Yeah,
I guess it was tough for my mom because, you know, she always embraced my curls. She's like, Sydney, I love, because she has like very Caucasian hair. So she's like, oh, I wish I had your volume and your curls. It's so beautiful. Like, would always encourage me to wear it curly. But I was like, no, Mom, like, this is awful. Like, you don't understand the struggle. Like, you know, but she would always encourage me to embrace them, which I'm very thankful for. But no, does that mean she knew how to do my hair? Probably not, you know? It's just like,
my mom did not either.
Yeah.
She would bring me to her hairstylist. My mom's a redhead, straight hair. I'm like, and I would go to her stylist and I'm like, can you just fix it? And they would just fuck it up.
Yeah.
They fucked it up.
And
I'm like, Mom, I think I need to go to like a black hairstyle.
Yeah.
I think everyone has had, everyone's fucked their hair up growing up at some point.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
now
man.
when you reach out. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Taylor, when you were talking about edges, I was like, when you like notice like what is that? Like it makes you look a lot more ethnic than like, you know, everyone else. And then I hated that. So I decided to shave them off. And I looked like I had like a receding hairline. It was terrible. It was so bad. I was going to these crazy lengths. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, and now to go see a hairdresser, you got to do like so much research and you have to ask them like a million questions. I'm like, I know you work with curly hair, but do you work with like black curly hair? Also, I have a ton of hair, like I mix, so it's not complete like, and they're like, well, I've worked with, I'm like, no, you're out. Who's still standing?
No.
Like,
don't touch it.
And I'm wondering too, if you guys can kind of touch on like what this experience within hair, how that showed up on the show for you all, and like how you felt you showed up as a mixed race person on the show.
I mean, my hair was just frizzy the entire time. Like in Mexico.
Yeah.
No, it was just gone.
On Paradise was the first time that and again, like there's stages, as you talked about, Jami, where like I was straightening my hair a bunch. So my curls were not what they look like today. They were very frizzy. They were like not full, and it looked a little raggedy. And over time with less straightening and, you know, getting trims and whatnot, now I have the curls I have today, but I remember on Paradise, I wore it curly most of the time. And it felt like I was showing up in such a different way to not only myself, but also like in the public eye, because it was like, what am I putting in all this work for? Like, why am I continuously straightening it? Why do I feel I need to do this in this environment? So it's a difference of like, is this something I want to do because it's like fun, it's creative, it's a way to just like change up my look? Or was it this like, I feel like I need to do this, otherwise like I won't be accepted and I won't be comfortable and I'm going to feel this anxiety of like, oh my God, this is like not how I should look here right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
on Paradise.
Go ahead. No, you go, Amber.
I remember on Paradise when I had just gotten ready for like the first rose ceremony or whatever. And they decided at that point to do the opening credits, you know, when we all like do those cheesy things in the beginning. And they made me freaking go into this like shower scene and I had to get my hair entirely wet all over again. I was so mad because I just had gotten ready and they had made me do everything. I'm like, you don't understand. This takes a long time to do. And I remember just not feeling like to par, I guess, at the rose ceremony because I was just like, well, I look ugly. There's no point.
I remember having a few meltdowns during filming because, you know, they tell you, oh, like you wait for 3 hours, like, oh, get ready, it's time to go. I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like, I can't do that. It doesn't work like that for what I have back here. And I would get so frustrated. But thankfully Eddie was one of my producers, so he like understood. But I remember, I guess like I didn't really wear my hair curly at all during filming, and I'm mad at myself for that because again, it was just like working through. You're still beautiful, like with your curly hair, like you still are presentable and pretty. And I just like was in this headspace of like you're on camera, you have to look your best, you have to straighten your hair, straighten look good, and that's like how I was with it. But I think if I would have had the opportunity to go on Paradise, I think I would have embraced it just because of kind of the climate and like I think I would have tried to do that a little bit more for sure.
Yeah,
I remember on our season, I got in a fight with one of the producers because they were like, you have to go back and we have to do an interview about night one. And my hair was like curly and in a bun. And I was like, okay, when do you want me to do this? And they're like, well, in like 15 minutes. And I was like, that's not going to happen. Like, and they're like so confused. And I was like, it takes me a minimum hour and 15. And that's like not even my best hair. That's not going to look like me on night one. And they were like getting mad at me. And I was like, I don't understand how like this is a thing. Like you can't just do that. And I was, I remember just being like, are you kidding me? And I don't even think we had any black producers.
Yeah, so I was going to say for listeners, Eddie was the only Black producer I think that they've had in the entire time of the franchise that I'm aware of. He came on, I believe it was on my season of Paradise, was the first that I think he had came on. I'm not sure that he's with the show anymore, but Eddie was one of the only Black producers. And then just to your point of like feeling bad, like looking back at not wearing your hair curly more, like I definitely would just want to say to you to be gentle with yourself on that. Like it is a really intense environment, and we have been conditioned throughout our entire lives that our society favors whiteness and favors when you do show up in a way that's more in alignment with that. And I know that's something that I've struggled with myself. And I think as we've all talked about, we all kind of have in some ways.
Right.
So I would just, say to just be gentle with yourself on that and not try to not be upset.
It's a process for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. We have to kind of wrap up here. I know there's so much more that we could go into on all of this. But being that this is our kind of first predominantly girl group, the hair piece feels very, very authentic to discuss that I know a lot of mixed race people struggle with. I would love to hear, just kind of to leave us off here, of what being biracial means to all of you, and what you want people to know about your experience being biracial.
Well, I think being biracial, obviously, I love equally my mom and my dad. And again, like I said, I did grow up primarily on my mom's side, but I think recently I've found out a lot more. And my current boyfriend right now, he's white, and I just remember, just a couple of weeks ago, it was 4th of July weekend or whatever, and we had a discussion about everything kind of going on. And my heart, just because they kept talking about it, and I just wanted to interrupt them so many times, but you guys are not getting the point of these things. But I also wanted, my second time meeting his family, I don't want to be that person. But I ended up speaking some words, and I ended up crying. But I think it's just it's tough because you see one side, my mom luckily is a saint, and she's just always shown me the right in everything. I've never grown up in a way that I will never see my dad's side. You're never going to see them ever, what I'm saying? I just, in a way, it's, for me, I think some of my friends were you don't have to worry about any of this stuff happening in the world because we got your back. We're white. We got your back, and I don't know how to explain this, but it's just more of I feel for my brother, honestly. I've never really, Sydney, with your stuff that you've dealt with, I have not dealt with any of that. I was lucky enough to not. But my brother, on the other hand, has, and that's where my heart honestly goes.
Yeah.
Before me is my brother. Obviously he's a male. He's 6'1". He's a bigger guy. And as soon as I saw that George Floyd thing, I was that could have been my brother. That could have been my dad. That could have been my uncle. And that's the only thing that really kind of pulls me into learning more, wanting to teach others more, is my family, honestly. I hate to see my brother cry. He doesn't cry often with me, and seeing him just get so emotional with all of that just made me think I need to learn more about this and educate people more about this. Even my mom.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she knows a lot, but I have to keep learning and educating and just being there.
Yeah.
Saying my word.
There's still so much for us to learn.
I'm starting to cry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
But the girls we just talked to before, they put a lot of knowledge just on me, just in that short amount of time. I was like, damn, this is what I was going through. This is that word and all that. So there's always much to learn from, even though you experienced it your whole life. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, Jami or Sydney.
I guess I'll pop in. Oh my gosh, I kind of forgot the question.
Just what it means for you to be biracial and what you want people to know about being biracial or about the mixed experience.
Yeah, I think for me, being biracial is just accepting all of who you are. when it comes to, you know, your ancestry and even your hair. I think that's such a huge thing. And I always say to some, like, not always say, but I think one of my things is like, if God didn't want the races to mix, then he wouldn't have made all of the mixed races so beautiful. And I think another thing that I feel like people need to touch on is this weird thing of like a lot of people being like, I really want mixed race babies.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Which is like odd. And I've had people say that to me. And I think that they're trying to say it in a compliment as like, oh, I want my kids to look like you. But to me, I don't know, it makes me feel almost like a dog that you're like breeding, like which is just
accessory.
like,
it's
right?
objectifying.
It's very weird. And I feel like my dad always said, because I would get really upset when I was a kid when people would say, well, what are you?
Yep.
And I hated explaining it. And then my dad, he just said, he was like, obviously that's a kind of a rude way to phrase it.
It's very dehumanizing. I did a whole episode on that concept when people ask, what are you? Because I can't stand it.
It drives me, like that phrasing of it is just like so rude. Because I just say I'm a human.
Yep.
But I say American.
I say I'm human as well. I say that as well.
Yeah.
But I do understand, because sometimes I've seen some like beautiful people and I'm just like, where are you from? Like, what's your background? And it's that curiosity. So I understand it a lot more. And I'm like, okay. And it's when they ask it in a polite way, it's them trying to learn. So I feel like I'm also learning to have more patience with people, obviously, unless they're very rude and arrogant. And even then, when I went to the rally in Edmonton, there was one gentleman that stood up and was awful. And this guy just said, we love you. We're giving you love. And now I'm like, that's what I'm going to do, is just kind of put my love on everybody else, especially if they are arrogant and racist, and hopefully just keep learning and just loving everybody.
Yeah. Good for you. I don't got the patience for that no more.
But again, like, I feel like, again, like, especially hearing like Sydney's stories, I'm like, I think you saw my jaw was dropped like the entire time. Yeah. I was bullied growing up, but it wasn't like aggressive hate crimes. And I think like Amber, my brothers they're 6'2", like 6'1", 6'2", like tall Black guys. And my brother actually recently told me that he's had the N-word yelled at him while walking in the streets of Edmonton. Right. And like, I am like the younger sister that's like so overly protective. Like, I will attack. Yeah. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And I think I am lucky enough to not have had really awful experiences. And I think another thing, sorry, I'm rambling, is just when someone does tell you about their experience, don't say, no, that didn't happen, because it's hard for you to believe. Say, I'm sorry that happened to you. Because when I tell people about someone touching my hair that I don't know, and they're like, no, that doesn't happen. I'm like, you're like muting my experience in life. Yeah. So just say, that's crazy, or something wild like that. So that's my lesson of the day.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. And I agree with all of that 100%.
Yeah. I think for me, this has just been so good for me, because I didn't really have a lot of people to like look like in Alabama or the community that I grew up in. Like, I just did not have any girlfriends like you guys, or anyone that understood like where I was coming from. I think the other mixed person in my school was like a boy, and he was like 3 years younger than me. So I never understood like why this is happening and all of these crazy things, and going to the police and like having like, it was really traumatic for me. But it's almost it's just so good to hear like it's not always like that. And it also depends, where you are in the world. And obviously I got put in the worst possible spot you could be in. So it's just like, it's hearing like, I think one of you ladies said you had an experience where you named your dog Oreo. Like, that was like a thing for you, like you felt like that was okay. And like, I wish that I had that mindset, but like, on the other end, like I got Oreo stuffed into my locker and and like things like that is just like, it's good for me to hear these things to where I'm not so rigid towards it. Cause I think throughout all of my traumatic experience, it's made me kind of just like rigid towards anyone that says anything. I just like pop off, and I'm very quick to just be really aggressive, and I don't need to be that way. But I guess it's just from the trauma, like you said, that I've had, and it's always having to be my own person that like, fights back. So it's good to hear stories of just like not as bad, and different mindsets and different viewpoints on it, so that I can learn to just like, I don't want to say accept them for what they are, but just learn how to kind of weed through the mess and get to where I need to be like mentally for myself, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you just have to, it's just like so much growth, especially with what's going on right now. And it's brought me back to kind of like those places more than I have been in a really long time, because I've always just like kept forward, like living life.
It's triggering. It's very triggering.
Yeah, it is. So it's brought me back to like those moments and what those people would say and all the racist, crazy people in my hometown and all of that. Just bringing that back up. So it's made me more aware of decisions like not wearing my hair curly, like things like why am I doing that? You know what I mean? That's made me like more aware of little things that I do. But no, I'm so thankful for this. This is great. Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing. I'm like, I want to keep going. There's so much more.
Yeah, I
know. There really is. And, you know, I really wanted to make sure that everyone that was a part of this franchise had an opportunity to kind of share even just a small part of what their experience has been like being biracial. So I really appreciate, you know, the three of you really making the time for this and being vulnerable and sharing this stuff, because I know that it does bring up things and that it can be really hard to talk about and put out there. But hopefully it's also feeling a little bit healing in some ways too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was awesome. 100%. Thank you for putting this together, Taylor. It was nice hearing about everyone else's experiences.
I know.
Too.
I know. It's so crazy. Because you see this like Instagram and everyone looks so happy and perfect and stuff, but then no one really knows any of our backstories. Mm-hmm. Really. They know us from 2 hours of television time on Mondays. And that's what they're judging us on. Mm-hmm. So I like these types of things too. So thank you.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you ladies so much. Is there anything else before we leave off that we want to make sure that we talk about?
I would just say, let's go hard for Breonna Taylor.
Yes. Absolutely. Breonna Taylor. Let's get some justice and some accountability for these police officers, please.
Yes, 100%.
Awesome.
Exactly.
All right, that does it for today's episode. Thank you so much for making it all the way through and keeping your ears, your hearts, and your minds open. It would mean so much to me if you could take a second or two after listening to this episode to leave a review on iTunes and let me know what you're enjoying about the show. I love reading, what your favorite episodes are, where you guys listen, and definitely feel free to share this with a friend. I mean, part of how we break down the stigmas around these topics is by talking about them, right? And sharing them with more people. So definitely share the podcast. And again, really wanting to include all of you in this podcast. So if you have questions or you want to share a thought or an experience, please send in a voice memo to ask.letstalkaboutit@gmail.com. And I'm really excited to keep having these conversations and breaking down these stigmas. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll talk to you next time.